Hello everyone and welcome out to the stream. This is going to be some Challenger Ranked 5s. On the blue team, it will be Team Green Forest, and over on the red team, it'll be LOL Girlfriends. I'm not too sure what the tag T2MXD is, but this is Team LOL Girlfriends. You can find them on Twitter at LOL Girlfriends. I can't find a Twitter for Team Green Forest, but if anyone has it, make sure to link it so that we can share it with everyone, because these are two awesome teams. We've seen a lot of Team Green Forest in some of the Challenger matches. They were in the Challenger series for a little bit there, were knocked out in some of the early stages. It's now coming to a close, which means that the second half of the Challenger series is open for pretty much any team to join in, and that's going to be exciting to see who exactly can mark their place there for those Challenger series points, and then eventually hope to make it into the LCS promotionals. LOL Girlfriends haven't quite made as much of an impact, but we recognize so many of the players. That's going to be Otter on AD carry, Cloud Win on jungle, Knives Millions is the top laner, and Leo TY as the mid. Leo TY was the AD carry previously of a couple of teams. Unite Gaming was one, and he actually was on Team Green Forest at one point, so he's now moved over here to LOL Girlfriends. We've casted Knives Millions quite a few times on this stream before. Definitely a strong top laner. All these players are Diamond 1 and Challenger level League of Legends solo queue players, and coming together for some rank 5s. We'll see how well they do. I feel like LOL Girlfriends are slightly less known, but they definitely have a lot of potential. An interesting point here to note is that Alistar started out with his heal as his first ability. He didn't go for the Pulverize, which seems to be a little more typical. It can be difficult to use level 1 because you have to walk up to them, and you don't have any ability to get up there unless you use your flash. But instead he's going to go for that heal just to, I guess, keep his minions up a little bit. He can try and deny some with the minions or push up a little bit hard, and they might need it because Sivir has such abysmal range, and because Caitlyn has such powerful pushing potential in lane. Eventually, once Sivir gets enough points in her Ricochet and the Boomerang Blade, to be able to push quite effectively, but it requires a bit more mana than potentially Caitlyn needs. And look at that, Otter already taking a lot of harass from the auto attacks, has to play back because an incredibly short-range AD carry like Sivir really can't face off head-to-head against Caitlyn until she gets a few levels and is able to potentially spell shield the net, get up there with the Boomerang Blade, and try and burst her down. The mid lane matchup is also actually pretty typical. Orianna seems to be one of the only champions that you can pick into a LeBlanc, since she can stay back and clear out waves pretty effectively. She can usually outpush LeBlanc unless the LeBlanc maxes Distortion, and look at that, a good amount of harass, which is why Orianna can be an effective pick, as well as with the auto attack harass. She can hold her own and just try and keep herself safe from the absolute devastating assassination potential that comes out from that mid lane AP carry. And it'll be interesting to see if it gets later on into the game and Nato can stay safe, farm, and push out this lane, then he will be able to have slightly more teamfight impact than LeBlanc can bring in. Oh, in the bot there's a good fight there. Reborn taking a decent amount of damage. Body drop just going to try and sustain them back up, and that's going to be an important point down here in the bottom lane. They do have the health sustain coming up from Alistar's heal as long as he has mana. However, it looks like Otter's not that lucky. Descendants lands on the body drop. He pulverizes him up, flashes away. The ignite is down on him. Dawn flashes in, gets the last auto attack, and now Otter tries to turn it around, but he falls so low. He has to flash out of there and pop the barrier. Maestro runs in, throws in the undertow, but the barrier isn't enough to save him from that one. Dawn going to have to back out of this one, and Vi won't be able to get an access. Won't be able to access this through anyway with a Vault Breaker because of the excellent ward coverage there in the river, and so ultimately that'll be a kill here for Team Green Forest. Oh my goodness! What on earth just happened? That was Dawn grabbing kill onto Otter. Let me just rewind there and see exactly what went down. So Otter comes out and tries to farm as best he can. Dawn just waits here, throws out a Peacemaker, and picks up the easy kill there. A mistake from Otter to play that closely. Didn't have the spell shield to throw on to absorb that, or if he did, it didn't have the reflexes. And so that's 2 early kills for Caitlyn in a lane where Caitlyn can do so much, even with an even lane early on because of that range disadvantage. That's only going to be further amplified by the items that are going to come out from Caitlyn. I expect to see potentially a Vampiric Scepter and maybe some boots for good staying potential. And actually, the BF sword comes out first. I didn't expect that amount of gold to come out here, but with 2,050 already there on that AD carry, that'll be a punishing lane. I expect to see a lot more fighting come down in the bottom lane, potentially an early turret taking, since Reborn and Dawn both have a good amount of range and should be able to push down that lane pretty quickly. Another interesting thing to note is that Sivir has a range of 500, which is not that much more than Thresh has. So when the ranged character is barely as range, or barely further range than the almost melee support, it's definitely room for a whole lot of harass coming down here. And look at Dawn getting those auto attacks with so much attack damage. Reborn does get knocked up, does not land the death sentence, and so won't be able to find too much there onto Body Drop. Body Drop's just going to try and sustain back up here as well as he can. Dawn and Reborn continuing just to push up, farm up. The farm isn't that different, but there's still so much gold here on the side of Dawn due to those 2 early kills. In the top lane, Cloud Nguyen looks to potentially come in for a gank onto that control. Knives Millions moves in around from top. He's pushing it up quite heavily, which is going to put that control in a bad position, but Cloud Nguyen doesn't want to waste too much time. Falls back into the out of the tri-bush just a little bit, and Maestro coming up here to hold the lane will signal the back there from Cloud Nguyen. He doesn't want to dive into a 2 versus 2. That's just a recipe for disaster. Leo just pushing up this mid lane, honestly doing a really great job against NATO's early harass. Even though he has had to go back, he has forced NATO back as well, and they are relatively even in farm. Now Leo going for the roam. There aren't any pings, and he will wait here in the bush. NATO won't check it. There's a snare landing the silence of the ult, and Leo taking NATO down below half, going to back out of that where it doesn't have the burst to finish him off, but will be incredibly happy with that early damage. Leo throws down a pink ward, and I'm not sure if he saw the ward and didn't go to finish it off, or if he doesn't quite have the range to catch that out. Otter actually doing better in this bot lane than I expected after going against an AD carry with the BF sword, but Body Drop's done a really good job of sustaining them up, and Otter is farming pretty successfully with the Ricochet, with the Boomerang Blade, and with his incredibly short range. Dawn not quite doing enough to really harass Otter back out of lane, and Reborn not landing the death sentences they crucially need. That's one really strong advantage that Otter has. That spell shield able to block out the entirety of a death sentence really limits the initiation potential down here in the bot, and they would need someone like Olaf to come in with continuous spells in that undertow to try and catch on to her. I want to kind of stay down here, bot, because I feel like Reborn wants to go in here soon, but I'm not too sure if it's going to happen, and if not, then when. Leo just continues to run around. He did pick up the blue buff, and so he will have a lot of regeneration and a decent amount of cooldown reduction as well, which will really help him move around this map using that distortion, being able to get in there with the distortion and then the ult on top of that. It really helps clear out waves. Oh, Reborn caught in a rough spot. Cloud Nguyen comes in for the gank. The Flay knocks him back. Otter looks to continue on. Dawn auto attacking from the back, throws in the ace in the hole there on the Body Drop. Manages to find the kill. Boomerang Blade comes across on the Reborn. Leo flashes over, and with the ignite and the snare is able to find it. Now Dawn looks to be in a rough spot, but the shield lays down onto him. There's a red buff now taking down on Otter. Maestro can't continue it up, throws the undertow onto Leo, but they're split up so well that they can't quite follow it up. In the end, though, one kill traded for one, and not a big advantage to either team. What's interesting to see, though, is that Girlfriends have done a really good job of farming up. Even though they're 2 kills behind, they're only 300 gold in the disadvantage, so they certainly have a good chance to come right back into this game. And if you look up in the top lane, that's an enormous farm disparity to Knives Millions, doing an excellent job on that Renekton, really punishing Shyvana's nerfed early game. Sivir as well, holding her own really effectively against a lane that seemed to be lost at pretty much level 2. That control, throwing the Dragon's Descent, just going to try and farm up, hold the lane. Knives Millions really walking over this. He has the most farm in the game, picking up that early brutalizer, going to be going for some massive damage if he turns that. Oh, wow. All right, well, we will see exactly how that mid lane fight transpired. Leo forced back to his turret. This is the power that Orianna has in this lane, and we'll see exactly how Leo answers. He jumps right in there for the double hit, but he doesn't do nearly enough damage. I think only one of them connected, and so Nado is able to turn right back around with the command shockwave and take him out. A misplay there from Leo, but hopefully he can make up for it. He's 1-1 so far, but there's certainly a lot of room in the mid game for LeBlanc to grab some nice kills. Top lane fighting quite aggressively, actually. Knives Millions taking a good amount of damage, turning some with Cole the Meek, and has a decent amount of sustain despite the fact that he's all out of health potions. He'll be pushing up continuously and put a good chunk onto this turret. Cloud Nguyen and Body Drop now taking down the dragon, and there's no response there. Reborn will suspect them to be there. A couple of wards right here from Team Green Forest. I'm not too sure about their intentions as I don't see into the dragon pit too well. But that will be a good pickup there from LOL Girlfriends, actually bringing them in the gold advantage despite being so far down in kills. Now Knives Millions up in the top lane, able to find the kill there onto that control. Maestro tries to gank in. He has the undertow. No, but he's going to turn it around onto him. He had to walk into melee range, which enabled Knives Millions to grab the Cole the Meek and was able to grab a 2-for-1 in a 1 versus 2. Well played to Knives Millions, really using that huge advantage in the top lane to not only come up to almost 100 CS and take down the turret, but turn around an excellent 1 versus 2 fight. Knives Millions really going to help carry his team while the rest catch up there. Now Leo going in. There's Cloud Nguyen in for the gank onto Nado, and with the Assault and Battery, Nado's going to try and flash out of there, and they don't actually have the tools to chase on. Leo just doesn't have a lot of damage yet, despite the fact that he's picked up this large rod. With the solid shield coming out, as well as the magic resistance on the Athenian's Unholy Grail, Orianna is just a little bit too tanky for the almost damageless Vi to be able to take down alongside Leo, who hasn't picked up a big item. Once he gets a Deathfire Grasp, though, that'll be a different story. And if Vi's able to catch onto someone and Leo can follow up, it'll almost certainly be a dead target. Body Drop flayed backward by Reborn, taking a good amount of damage, but the Death Sentence not coming through really in the right direction at all. So a couple of mistakes here in Thresh, not able to really abuse that early lead so far. They've allowed Otter to grab his own BF sword. He doesn't have a Bloodthirster yet, and so he won't be returning quite the amount of damage that Dawn has. But it's still been a pretty good job for Sivir to be able to farm up in this lane that well. I'd like to interrupt with a happy birthday to Sean Forecourt Jester Delaney. He is now probably 38 or something. I don't know. He's old, but his birthday's February 11th, and that just ticked over at midnight his time. So congratulations, trying to get another year older. You also share a birthday with my mom. And your birthday's 2 days after mine, so congratulations. I guess it means I'm older than you. And we'll get right back into our game. Sorry for the brief aside. I still feel like something needs to happen bot, even though it hasn't for quite some time. After those 2 early kills on the Dawn, I really felt like he would use that to snowball this lane, but he hasn't. He's sitting on 3 kills, but it doesn't look like it means anything. Actually, there's On the Hunt coming out from Otter. They go in onto Reborn, and Leo comes over the wall, but Reborn able to take out Otter before anything else happens. Death Sentence doesn't connect, but Leo isn't able to get in there in time, and Otter just ran through the wrong way, didn't even find the chance to pop the barrier, and took way too much damage. A pretty rough play from Otter, going to result in another kill here for Team Green Forest, bringing the gold almost perfectly even between the two teams, and they're still going to fight it out. If we look at how the late game is going to go, it's really going to play on how well the command shockwaves can land, because that is going to be the largest team fight determiner here. Now Knives Millions pushing up here with a gank from Cloud Nguyen. The stun lands there onto that control. He tries to drag and send it away, but the Assault and Battery going to try and catch up to him. Knives Millions is right on his tail and should be able to grab this with theirs. Another Cole the Meek. Maestro goes in. Cloud Nguyen flashes and Vault Breakers over the wall. They did lose a turret in the bot lane, but they were able to turn one up top. Knives Millions going to hold his own as he does get the last hit there, and as they get into the turret range, they will find a solid amount of gold to keep the teams relatively even, except for a few hundred in the pockets of LOL Girlfriends. Reborn recalling in a bush, can't get caught out here by Otter, but it doesn't look like Otter will catch on there. And so he'll instead opt to continue farming out, almost catching up there to Dawn, and potentially returning some damage here onto the turret. It hasn't taken much at all, but once he throws that Ricochet, he will be able to get a nice amount of attack speed on there. And look at the damage coming up from the BF sword. He'll be taking this out before too long. Body drop also a really good assistant to have on any push, since he can keep the minions alive. His trample as well, the passive that deals magic damage after every spell cast, can affect structures as well, so it can consistently damage them over a long period of time while he's auto attacking them and while his AD carry is working to take them down as well. It's nice to have a little bit of a relaxing day. I guess the solo casts are nice because there's not as many expectations on me, since it, you know, people understand that it's just me talking about games. And, so I would like to ask everyone, if you haven't seen it yet, to go check out the cast I did yesterday. It was so much fun. Got to do it with my good friend Zyrene. We did an interview as well. And I'd really like some feedback on the casting, on the interview as well, since I know I'm not a good interviewer at all. But I'd really like to improve, so that eventually I'll, you know, be able to do it well. And if, you know, any organization wants to hire me, they won't have to teach me. I'll already know how to do that pretty effectively. And congrats again to Zyrene for the new job. I'm super excited for him. It's funny, we actually talked about potentially getting a place together in California, and then abruptly he was like, oh, sorry, man, I can't. I have to move to Los Angeles. And I'm like, what's going on? And then like months later, I realized, oh, it's because he got the offer at Riot. And so I forgive him. I forgive him for leading me on. It's alright. It's alright. I'm interested to see what exactly Maestro and Reborn are going to do with this roam here. They're walking around the river on top of a ward. They are creeping up around this dragon now. This might be their first dragon attempt. But the Assault and Battery comes all the way through after that Lantern. Cloud and Wind's going to fall low quickly. Box goes down from Reborn, going to keep Otter from getting in there. But the Death Sentence going to pull him a little bit too close for comfort. Leo comes in and Body Drop does get a nice knock up there. Leo grabbing a kill on the NATO, the only one they found. Dom now flashes in, trying to land the kill on the Leo, is able to get it. A 3-for-1 so far. Body Drop now caught up by the Death Sentence. The Lantern goes down for the style points as they do grab a 4th kill in that fight, decimating Girlfriends at Baron. And moving on to their first dragon of the game. This will be 1 to each team now, and a solid 1.5 thousand gold lead to Team Green Forest US. Knivesmillion's going to try and hold this mid lane as well as he can. Cloud and Wind doesn't have a lot of tankiness so far, so he won't be able to get in here, and Knivesmillion's just with the Ravenous Hydra and Brutalizer can't quite keep that turret alive. So that will be a turret taken down, 4 kills, and a dragon. Team Green Forest coming out huge out of that one. Knivesmillion's just not able to find a way to get in there. Look at the farm, 171. But without being in the fight, that farm means nothing here to the strength of Girlfriends. He needs to get in there and just bully out NATO and Dawn to be able to use that huge, aggressive build to be able to keep the rest of his team alive. He can act as a tank, not by necessarily tanking a lot of damage, but by just distracting and disrupting the fight with a bunch of damage himself, so that the other damage threats are able to get in there, and by the time he's close to death, they hope to have dealt enough damage that the rest of the team isn't alive to contest. We'll see how well that strategy works, though, and of course that is the choice of Ravenous Hydra and Brutalizer over something a lot safer, such as a Banshee's Veil, a Spirit Visage, or a Sunfire Cape. Those seem to be, I guess, Spirit Visage and Sunfire Cape seem to be very typical items on Renekton, but with neither of them picked up here, and really no defensive items in sight, it could be a mistake. However, he still is 3-1 though. We definitely can't speak down about his really solid play in lane. It'll just we'll just have to wait and see how well he can do in team fights. Dawn finally starting to bully out this bot lane, it looks like. 4-0 and 3, so powerful. We haven't seen him that strong in lane since the first few levels, but in that team fight he was able to decimate and never took too much damage himself. With the aggressive flash and net, he was also able to catch on to Leo for the assassination, and typically you don't expect your your squishy AD carry to be the one who assassinates a LeBlanc, but it looks like that was the case there for Green Forest. Reborn might be caught in a bad spot here. They have the ward in the tri-bush. It is going to be swept. Sweeper, body drop caught up by the Descendants. The Vox goes down. Otter tries to run away from that one, has to flash. Body drop falls so low, headbutts Reborn away, but won't be long for this world. The auto attack comes down. NATO flashes in. The command shockwave misses. Otter looks to run away from this one, but there's the flash Descendants in. Reborn will find that kill with the flay, and with 4 members here in the bot lane, it looks like Team Green Forest will not only take 2 kills, but another turret under their belt. Now be 3-1 with almost 4,000 gold in the lead. They're moving right here on the inhibitor turret. They know Otter isn't up for another 10 seconds. Body drop just respawning as well. Has his Moby boots, but no home guards. So we'll try to run down here, but not before they lose that inhib turret. Now Team Green Forest will smartly back out of this one after the remainder of Girlfriend's respawns. Leo's trying to cut them off of the side. Will catch on to NATO there. He lands it, but the lantern is going to be enough to get him out of the leash range. Otter being forced to run up top where they've had that control pushing. Going to take down yet another turret soon enough here. Otter might not be able to get in there in time. We'll see how well that control can get on it. Not using the twin bite to take down the turret though. Won't be able to get down quickly, but it looks like Girlfriends might have given up here. They are going to hand this red buff over to Otter here, so it will give him a little bit more flexibility in team fights when it comes to positioning, since he can slow his opponents as well. But he hasn't been able to stop the box with his spell shield, which is pretty much the biggest issue so far. That huge slow, really disrupting him in fights. Oh, the headbutt pulverize knocks that control out of his Dragon's Descent. He pauses for a glamour shot, but I'm not sure that Girlfriends are really going to respect it. That control runs past the lantern, won't be able to click on it, and Leo grabs out the kill there. A really solid Alistar play from Body Drop. And we'll hope we can see more of it, because that's what we're going to need to see. Aggressive, kind of quick surgical plays. Really going to help them. Oh, on the hunt, coming out for seemingly no reason. Cloud and Wind jumps over the wall, but he's not finding his target here. He has his Assault and Battery up, but he won't quite find the person to click R onto. Now with the rest of Girlfriends pushing here in the mid, they might be able to finally take a turret for themselves. Body drop flashes in for the pulverize, but misses completely. The Descendant catches on, and that will be a dead bull. You cannot milk those, but 9 millions might have something to say about his teammate falling. They do grab a kill on the NATO, but they lose 2 for themselves. A double kill for Dawn, able to find it onto both Cloud, Nguyen, and Leo. And it looks like Team Green Forest is just going to consistently get huge advantages here. 9 millions did a solid job diving in there, but the rest of his team was so vulnerable. They're incredibly squishy. Sivir not able to really get too close to the fight due to that very small range. Leo with only a Deathfire Grasp. If he gets caught, he can't do anything to escape except try and throw on his juke boots, use that distortion away. Descendants doesn't land on the Otter. He tries to delay this Baron for as long as he can. Knives Millions coming in from the side as well. Might look to come in here. Reborn falls low and gets taken out immediately, but Knives Millions gets returned. This Baron falls so low, and they are able to take it. Team Green Forest grabbing that away. It will be on 4 members of their team, with NATO respawning in time to grab up that buff. Only Reborn going to be the one without it, but I'm sure they're happy with that advantage. 6,000 here in the favor of Team Green Forest, and Girlfriends really on the back foot. We'll see how well they can do coming into this late game. Otter is picking up, getting a little bit stronger, and he has a very teamfight centered ultimate, but the problem is their teamfight has felt so weak due to the absolute solid damage coming out from Dawn. He's picked up a Last Whisper on top of his Phantom Dancer Bloodthirster combo, so going for really just the maximum auto attack damage. We could see next an Infinity Edge, because he hasn't really been in too much danger so far. He hasn't been the target of too many assault and batteries from Cloud Nguyen, and he's 7-0-6 so far. I'm sure he doesn't want his first death anytime soon, but he can play around a little bit with a potentially aggressive build. And if he grabs that Infinity Edge, no one will be able to stay alive too long against him. No Randuin's Omens finished here on the side of Girlfriends. A piece of one by Cloud and Win, but without that, it's really going to limit their ability to shut down that AD carry. So Dawn will be pretty free to auto attack for quite some time. If you compare that build to Maestro's, who's picked up a Spirit of the Ancient Golem as well as a Randuin's, he's going to be able to tank up so much. He's going to be able to get right onto Otter and shut him down. Otter can't auto attack him without slowing his own movement and attack speed. Leo finally able to find a kill, giving Dawn his very first, shutting down his godlike spree. The flash comes over the wall. Reborn flashes in though for the flay. Leo doing his best to run away, but the death sentence will bring him back in range for Maestro to finish him off with a reckless swing. We've seen some pretty big aggressive plays from Reborn coming into the mid game. It seemed like in the laning phase he was pretty timid about it, but now with a decent amount of gold under his belt, that Talisman of Ascension, as well as a pretty fed team going to really back him up there in his engages. They do trade that for a turn in the mid lane, a good pick for Girlfriends to see. 2 or 3 members in the bottom lane means a potentially uncontested turret for them. They were right on that one. Otter not quite getting grabbed up by the death sentence there, throwing a premature spell shield, which is really smart for him now, since if he gets caught up, the Death Climbers are finally getting along enough that it could potentially even be an inhibitor for the team if they can push in fast enough. And when you look at a Phantom Dancer Bloodthirster combo, that's some of the maximum amount of damage that you can deal to a turret. Since crit doesn't matter, armor penetration doesn't matter, what matters is attack speed, which you get from the Phantom Dancer, and attack damage, which comes in increments of 100 there from the Bloodthirster. Otter, meanwhile, you can see how far behind he is in gold, despite the CS being near equal, almost 3,000 there, due to those 7 kills and assists over on Dawn's side, as well as the turrets and dragons in his favor. He's just going to be getting so much stronger here than Otter. Leo waits over the wall here, catches on to Nada there with the leash. Reborn tries to find him, won't be able to follow up on that distortion. Now Leo forced to defend here, and it looks like Team Reinforcer are actually going for this inhibitor here. As Talisman Ascension out, the ult from Leo will allow him to escape for now, but there's no one here to stop Maestro, Reborn, and Dawn. And Nado joining the team as well, pushing on. This is going to be a good old-fashioned base race. That's the inhibitor turret falling here for Team Green Forest. Leo, the only one left to defend. Not really the right option, as a Nexus turret will fall under siege. Maestro popping that ultimate for the attack damage buff. And they're pushing down here onto the Nexus turrets. They have to ping the recalls there out of Girlfriends. Leo trying to stay alive on the side. Dawn falling down to Leo, and that's actually going to be the defense command. Shockwave. Cloud and Wind jumps in here. He's getting on the NATO. Look at the damage coming out there from that vibe, but he's not quite able to do it yet. Barrier keeping NATO alive for now. Vaultbreaker not going to connect, and Maestro will now chase on the Cloud and Wind. He can't turn around onto NATO there. Maestro finding, no, the Undertow doesn't connect. Cloud and Wind jumping over the wall with the Vaultbreaker will be able to survive. Wow, the Nexus turrets are under siege. That control here for the defense, and this is becoming a pretty crazy game. Body drop, headbutting, that control away. Knives Millions is ignited, but comes in with the slice and the dice. They're able to take out that control. NATO comes back in, forces a flash out of Knives Millions. Body drop looking to escape as well. Might not be so lucky. He flashes over the wall, and there's no follow-up there. He will survive out of this one, and a really good play there from Girlfriends. Actually incredibly ballsy. It really ended up being Leo's ability to keep his Nexus alive by taking out a solid kill there onto Dawn. And then with Cloud and Wind's recall as well, they saved their base while taking out a Nexus turret of their own. Not quite the same as the double Nexus turrets that TGF was able to grab, but still in a losing game, trading out almost evenly. It'll certainly be interesting. This game is by no means over. I'm interested to see where our next engagement is. The snare doesn't quite land on the NATO. That might have been detrimental for Team Green Forest. If Leo was able to catch on there, he has his Deathfire Grasp up. He has a Void Staff as well, going for the Zhonya's Hourglass. Be able to stay a little bit safer there from not only the Shockwave out of Orianna, but the absolute devastating attack damage from Dawn. He is now working towards that Infinity Edge after picking up a Chain Vest for a little bit of defense. Leo and Knives Millions off to the side here, going to try and defend as the rest of Team Green Force pushes on. Distortion comes out from Leo to try and force Knives Millions into that ace in the hole. It's not quite enough. That'll be a good amount of harass here before the fight, bringing down Leo before he can quite get in there. Death Sentence doesn't connect due to a smart distortion out from Leo, and they're going to keep this mid alive. Super Minions are pushing in the bot though, and they'll have to back off here. That's what's so strong about Team Green Forest pushing in the mid, is that they have their own Super Minions bot, and they're able to clear out those Super Minions that are pushing against their own base. So it's going to force Otter back. It's going to allow them to catch on with the Death Sentence. Knives Millions falling so low. The Dragon's Den comes out, the headbutt pops him right back over, and that Dragon can fly. That Control's just going to be able to walk right back out the side here. NATO caught up by the Assault and Battery, going to fall low, gets knocked up by the Pulverize, but there's no follow-up body drop brought in by the Death Sentence, and this might be the game here. Team Green Forest are just popping up onto an uncontested Nexus. Otter and Knives Millions coming back, trying to defend, won't be able to take them down in time, and that'll be the game there for Team Green Forest. Really well played there. Seizing up some strong advantages, did lose a bit, almost lost in a base right there. That was pretty close, but they were able to recoup and then push the proper lane. Since they were able to push that mid, it forced Otter back. It allowed them to engage in the mid, and then they were able to finish off after taking out 1 or 2 members. And so, congratulations to Team Green Forest. A good effort by Girlfriends. I mean, the gold was only 4,000 different in the end, so it was certainly a close game.